This is Garth with Military Leadership Methods, and we are putting up another post on our Battlefield to the Boardroom series where we're capturing war stories from veterans. We want to capture the essence of what it is like to deploy from the rank and file, from people who've served overseas. And part of it is because we do a great job of saying thank you for your service. But that drives a wedge and separates service members from the rest of our nation. Really what we should be saying is welcome home. So this is a chance to gather a microphone live on Facebook and tell some stories about what it is like to go out and come home. Today I have Adam Martinez and Roland Vandenberg, both Marines, and you guys served together on one deployment and then did separate deployments again later, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, First cool. In 2003, and then he went on in 2009,
10, 11, 12.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on with us today. And I know, Adam, you got a story about downtown Baghdad, right, for the initial invasion. But I mean, what was it like? What did you do? What's your MOS?
So my primary MOS is 0331 machine gunner. I actually volunteered to go with Fox Company. They needed some extra bodies. And of course, they didn't even give me MVGs as well. I was kind of using someone else's. Didn't really get good gear. But since it's coming up on 15 years with April 8th being a special day to me, I just thought I'd bring a cool little story about when we got dropped off at a school in eastern Baghdad. We were the first ones there. It was a pretty long patrol into the city. It was about, I would say, like 1 to 2 hours of just patrolling, meeting the people for the first time. We were the first ones there. Lo and behold, once we did get towards the center of the town, we did get ambushed, and it was a pretty long firefight. I would say, I'd say it lasted almost 8 hours or something. It felt like, but I wanted to just kind of touch base on one thing that really stood out to me as far as someone's character, which was the guys that I was with. You don't really know how courageous someone is until you're getting round shot at you. I would say the toughest guys that I met over there, who I thought were tough, weren't really as tough as I thought they were. And these guys that were, you look at them and, they're a couple Mormon guys, a couple Mormon kids, $140. And I'm like, man, I can just pick you up and toss you. But they were more brave than I was. And they were the ones that were going up, and they were in the front, and they were laying rounds downrange. And it was just the coolest thing to see the true bravery of some of the Marines I was with. And you see someone's true leadership. When you talk about leadership in a combat situation, everybody can say they're going to do something, but when stuff really happens, and your life's in jeopardy, someone's true character and true courage really comes out. And it was really cool to see these guys from Fox Company, and just how much they stood out, and just the best guys I've ever known in my life. So that was really cool.
You guys got ambushed. You had your machine gun set up. You're downtown Baghdad. Yes. When you talk about these guys, and you're right, people don't rise to the expectation. They default to the level of their training. But the rounds start flying, and then you see these Marines from now Fox Company's out of Salt Lake City, Utah.
So there was Salt Lake City, and there was also Vegas, the Sinners and the Saints. And it was just there was machine guns posted up at different locations, but when it came down to engaging, you see these guys that were just coming towards where the rounds were coming. A lot of guys just freeze up. For a second, I froze up. I was just like, holy shit. Because we had, RPGs flying over our head. I don't even remember how many there were at one point, but they were just flying. And I was just like, just stay low, because I didn't want to stand up. I'm going to get freaking my head blown off. But these crazy fucking Mormon kids, man, just went, and they would just run towards it, and they were just putting it down, and there was no fear. And so I of course had to follow them, it was a natural reaction, because my natural reaction was to kind of freeze for a second, because you kind of get scared, but that's where almost I would say training, or, these great leaders were able to tell us what to do, even in that hard situation. You know, it was just straight up amazing. That's why I think that the greatest story to me is just the courage of someone under that kind of situation. Not really, yeah, we did get pinned down. It was a long, firefight. We stayed there for the night, and the next day kept pushing through the city. But it's just the courage of the guys. That's what I really want to touch base about. So
it's funny, like 15 years later, you remember a couple dudes that ran out in front.
You want to hear something funny?
One
of the same guys I remember, because he was still a virgin. He was 23 or 24. We used to give him shit for being a virgin. We were in Kuwait. He had a wet dream because he hadn't been with a woman, but yet that guy was fucking shit up, man. I just want to say that. And
I don't know that the two things are actually connected. Like, he could get out there and put it on. That's not.
But let me, it's just crazy, because there was when I first had gotten to the unit, I was a Lance Corporal. So we already know Lance Corporals are the kind of the grunts of everything. So I had this one corporal who was just like, really gave me a hard time, just kind of doing the whole like mini hazing, like, talking all this shit. But the first time we got shot at, that was a dude that was actually, hovered around his Humvee. Hope he's not watching. So, but just wanted to say. So.
Right, just don't say anything.
Just don't say anything. Yeah.
I would tell you, Fox 223 was involved in a lot of firefights as they went north. They somehow always seemed to be, in that tip of the spear point. Like if they were in the lead, that was the day we were going to get shot at. So, but yeah, that's cool. And Roland, you were there as well, right? Who were you with?
I was with a security platoon with H&S Company. So we were like on the security team with the main command element. I remember, I think when we were going up to Baghdad as well, we were like, I think a few steps behind you guys. Obviously Fox Company and the line companies were leading the way, and then we just followed in suit. I actually remember a time when we got up to Baghdad, it was like the first day that our element had gotten up to Baghdad. I think we were at like the Republican Guard compound or something, and we had set up a checkpoint right on the road while another element came in and cleared the compound. Well, early in the morning, one of our 7-tons, one of our trucks had gotten hit with an RPG. So we were like on the alert.
Roof, right? Didn't it
yeah,
roof
right over. Yeah, right. It either hit like right under it or like hit the top of it.
Yeah.
And so we were like kind of alert at that point. And
that'll wake you up.
Yeah, it'll definitely wake you up in the morning for sure. It's better than coffee, man. But there was a couple of hours that went by. I think Marines started getting a little bit lax, a little bit. They forgot what happened. And then all of a sudden it sank in when we had this car that was approaching our checkpoint. And the Marines that were at the front checkpoint, they were giving them signs like, stop, stop. And this is during the invasion, the streets were for the most part empty. If you were out on the streets, for the most part, you were a bad guy. And the car just wouldn't stop. It kept on going. I think it got to a point where there were some warning shots that were fired, and then we just heard an explosion. And then I was on the machine gun, which was just kind of catty-cornered to the left of the checkpoint. And at the time, I'm like 18, 19 years old, fresh into Iraq, fresh into OIF 1. And I'm thinking, oh shit, this car is approaching us. Is this damn thing gonna blow us all up? Right. And so at that point, everyone that was on their checkpoints just started engaging in this car. And I don't know how many rounds we had put it in this car. And afterwards, I don't know what happened to the car, but they took it out elsewhere because we had operations that were going on. But at the time, there was like just multiple people in this car, and there's no telling if there were bad guys or not. There was men, there was women in the car, And for me, like, I know we kind of had doubt in our heads, like, were we really doing the right thing there? Of course we were, because we were following all of our rules and engagement. It got to the point where if they did in fact had intentions, they would have took out our entire element right there.
Right.
And at the time it was a little bit of an adjustment, adjusting to that. And I just think, man, like, in that moment, it's like when something like that happens, you can't think about it. You just got to continue on and move forward with like our mission, because the second that you get caught up in your mind, it takes you off your game. And that's when bad things can happen, and that was, I think, one of my experiences when I was up in Baghdad, right around that same time. I think we were just across the way. But that's one of the things that really, really, stood out to me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, that's got to be rough. I mean, it's 15 years later, right? And you're walking through that experience. Now, you guys did take RPG fire from there. And actually, it's not a story for today, but the concertina wire that you laid across that road, when you left that position after that incident, I found later in the middle of the night driving up that road, and I'm going to tag him in this video, but my driver, Dan Baskas, hit that going about 30 miles an hour. And we spent a good hour in the middle of the night in that firefight that Adam was in, underneath the Humvee, getting rid of this beehive of concertina wire around our axle. Which was a very nerve-wracking experience. So thank you for not cleaning up your mess.
Oh yeah,
I ran right into your concertina wire in the middle of the night. But yeah, that was it was an interesting evening, and it's funny though. Like, so one of the reasons I like doing these is, it's like, if you went to a barbecue, you'd get a chance to hear these stories. But where else do you get to kind of share? 18, 19 years old, and you're making these decisions, and the whole group around you is engaging or is leaning into the fight, like Adam was saying. How do you, where do you get to share that? How do you make that part of your coming home? Because you guys did tremendously that day, both companies, and but then how do you sit on that?
You don't. You know what? I think that just hanging around other Marines. I think that's why we're so close. This is why we work together too. Is just we get to talk shit all the time, and really that's kind of what it comes down to. Being around other guys that were with you or are just like you, and you got to kind of just get to share that with each other. It's almost like, hey, this is what I experienced. This is what I experienced. And I don't know, that's just our coming home like that.
Definitely.
Way,
It's a bond. And I think we bring that a lot into what we do. I mean, I think that plays a big role in our passion for serving vets and helping vets, because we know that the sacrifices that are made, we know what happens when you're overseas, not only with the service members, but also the family. And that's why it's really just it makes us feel good staying connected. And that's, I think, the biggest thing, the camaraderie that you leave on the battlefield, that you leave when you step outside active service, you really miss it. So our role in really helping, vets and service members.
My personal awesome belief is when you it's almost like when you're active duty or something, or it's like when you leave someone alone, they kind of run off and do their own thing, and they're almost like a distant. They're not in the pack. So, when it comes down to even stuff like suicide and the bad things that are going on, we have to kind of take care of each other. Even when we're out, it's just like we have to always take care of each other. That's just rather. And when you get out, you got the civilian rank, and I'm still gonna call you sir until you pass. So. It's just the way it's going to go.
Accelerate that, right? We take our time.
Okay, we'll do that. But you get what I'm saying, sir. It's just like you want to just take care of each other, and and make sure that everyone does good in life, and support what they do and all that kind of stuff. So that's it.
Yeah, there is that common bond. And what I'm finding is, your time came in 2003 when you did that invasion, and then and Roland when you went back. But we didn't necessarily pick that, right? It happened on our watch, or it happened on your watch, and that was opportunity for you. But then there are other people of the same ilk, the same mindset. Like some of them are watching these, some of them are connecting in other ways, doing charitable things for veterans. So it's not whether you were there, it's whether you're able to tell the story and hear it, and kind of create that tribe out of it. Like, we're an amphibious fighting force, and there's a beachhead on the soul of every other Marine. But I would suggest it's an even bigger community than that. It's not just Marines. Like, there are people who are connected by this common sense of service who want to hear your story. So Sharon, it's powerful, and you're right. It builds that esprit de corps, right? That sense of team. Now, Roland, you went back, right? You deployed to Afghanistan?
Yeah, I did. After going into the reserves, and then after that invasion, I ended up going active duty, and then I was stationed with 2-8 out of North Carolina. I was with them for about 4 years. I did a couple of deployments. I did a training deployment to Africa, where we went several countries on the West Coast and trained some of our allied forces there. And then in 2011, then I deployed to Afghanistan, over to Marja province with 2-8. Yeah. So yeah, it was a little bit different than the invasion. I think for the most part, our role there in Afghanistan was training the ANP, the Afghan National Police, and the ANA, the Afghan National Army. And we were at the time where we were turning over the battlefield to them. So we had to make them as proficient as possible and kind of partner up with them, everything that we do. Yeah. It was interesting.
Yeah. From well, there's good cultural understanding and sort of sharing of work values and stuff there that pop up all the time. So, well, hey, gents, we'll cut this short, but thank you for coming on. I would encourage you and anyone else to join the group Battlefield to the Boardroom, where we're going to post this and other stories like this. This is episode 7, and thank you for connecting. And then look, if you're out there and you have a tale and you want a chance to just tell the Facebook world or to be heard on the internet, like, here's a great chance to just kind of share a little bit about what your experience was like for you. And the whole idea is, it's not about thanking you for your service. It's about welcoming you back. We are all one big society. Our culture here in America is one of inclusion and the melting pot. And gentlemen, I would just say to you, thanks for coming on and welcome home.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.